Yo YouTube! This is my video for Friday the 31st of October. I'm on my way to do my first pickup of the day. I got this job yesterday afternoon and it's a pickup from Lincoln going to Preston. It's on the CX as a long wheelbase van job, but I think all I'm collecting is one bicycle. And I spoke to the ship about it and they said the customer had ordered a long wheelbase, that's why they provided that. But I asked them about the load details and they said they think it's just one bicycle. They didn't actually know an awful lot about it, but at least they knew a little bit. So I'm assuming it's one rather than many. From looking at the notes, it looks like I'm going from a business address to a bicycle shop. If it was the other way around, there might be more than one bike, but I think I'm probably doing a return of some sort. That's my guess, but we'll find out when I get there. The money for this, I'll get £170, 170, and that's based on 135 loaded miles. The way I look at it is the job itself is going to take me from door to door around about 4 hours, and it's 40 miles to get to Lincoln. So I'm getting roughly £1 a mile, and then also I'm getting almost 6 hours worth of my income, like if I base it on £30 an hour. So if I was going to do this just on the mileage and the time, be about 150 would cover that, maybe about that. So I'm getting a decent rate for this job. In the way that I calculate these things for myself, I'm getting a decent rate. I'm happy with it. It is the last Friday of the month, and it's also the last working day of the month. So if that is going to go to sort of historic examples, it should be quite busy, although it is half term in a lot of the country as well, so that may mitigate it being very busy today. So I'm expecting when I get to Preston to find a job from the northwest area pretty easily today, and so I'm not too worried about how today will end up. Just a question about time, really. How quickly can I get that job back, and how quickly can I get back home? Will it be a long day, or will it be a sort of normal size, sort of normal length day? I don't really mind either way, as long as I make the money. Oh, and also, what I remember, it's the last day of October, which means today I'll give you my figures for October. So I haven't really looked into that yet. I'll do that tonight. So I don't really have a gut feeling as to whether I've done well or not for October. I'm hoping to do well compared to the other months, excluding September. So that'd be what I'm comparing them to. It won't be anywhere near as good as last month. And I'm also quite keen to work out whether me having quite a few one job day is going to the northwest, whether that proves to be a problem or not. It feels like getting sort of £200 plus for one job and going home isn't the most effective way of doing this job, but it might just be enough money for me to get enough for me to survive and to earn a living. I'm not convinced it will be, but I'm going to be keen to find out how it all pans out, having had what I would regard as being quite a slow, quiet month for myself. I mean, I don't think CX was particularly busy, but also I took quite a lot of days off this month for various health and laziness reasons. Mainly health reasons, to be honest. But having a cold and twisting my ankle makes me lazy, definitely. They're definitely cause and effect. Right, okay, I think that's everything I need to talk about. I hope you're having a good month yourselves, and I'll speak to you later. Quick thought for YouTube. This is just between me and you, don't tell anybody else. I've just thought of another reason why I should not get a small van and I should keep my long wheelbase. Today's job is on the CX as a long wheelbase van, but it's likely to only be one item that is likely to be able to fit on a small van, I'm guessing. When I get there, I know for sure. But even if this particular one isn't, it will fit on a medium wheelbase or a short wheelbase easily. And the point I'm making is, if I only had a small van, I would miss out on all the jobs that are advertised, not just in my area but around the country, for a long wheelbase van that would fit in a small van, but I would never see them. And it's more common than you might think that I get a small load defined as a medium or a long wheelbase van job. And so I get to see and bid on those jobs because they're defined as long wheelbase, despite the fact they aren't really. And the reason why that happens is that if the customer asks the shipper for a long wheelbase van, that's what the shipper will provide. They won't ask any questions about the size of the load, usually, and they'll just provide what they've been asked for. And so it's down to the customer's request, even if they don't need that size of van. And you never would have thought that if you didn't know from experience that happens. But now that I've got some experience, that's another reason why if I went down in van size, I would miss out on work potentially that is available to me, both in my area and as backload jobs. And then last quick thought, I've just checked my bank balance. I've been paid quite a few invoices today for the end of October. Roughly speaking, I counted them up, I had 26 jobs or invoices that were due at the end of October. They weren't all the ones for October, but they're the ones that were due on sort of 30th of October. I had about 13 of them paid in the few days before the 30th and the 30th. And today being the 31st, I've been paid a load more. So I can't be sure how many I've got outstanding, but it isn't very many. I'm going to guess no more than 4 outstanding, and we're not even finished with the debt today yet. So I would say that realistically speaking, having SmartPay available has reduced the amount of time invoices are paid late, which is always a good thing. So well done to CX for implementing that. I was really unsure when I first heard about SmartPay, about the motivation behind it and what it was to be, and I'm now pleased it's in place. And the only thing that I want to be reassured about is it won't become a compulsory paid service. There's always the danger in the future things can change, but I suspect that there's too much advantages for everyone to start hiving off that particular service as an extra paid bit. It should be and is included in your CX membership and should always be. So I'm happy with that, and I'm just hoping now that they get to grips with people using the CX who haven't paid membership, either because they're part of a fleet or they're on their own. I suppose what I'm saying is, in shorthand version, get rid of the syndicates from using CX. I cannot see any reason why anybody that sees a CX job and therefore can do a CX job shouldn't be tracked by the CX app and visible to other people, as in that's my competition. As a driver, I want to know my competition in a particular area. That helps to inform my decision about what to bid, and without the syndicate drivers on the app, it makes bidding more unfair for the drivers that paid them for the service. So I think it's feasible. I hope it will happen sooner rather than later. That's my biggest bugbear at the moment with the CX app, is people abusing it. It's not completely their fault, it's people being unethical, isn't it, and sort of getting around paying a fee, but it's not right. Hi, it is me again. I'm back. I've just got myself a second job. I'm driving the 23 miles from Preston to Bury to to do a pickup there for a small van job going to Grimsby. I've done this job before. It's usually an evening job in my experience. Just picking up rain now, so I'll talk a bit louder. But this is an afternoon job, 2 o'clock pickup. I'll be there about 1:45, and I'm getting £95 for 108 miles loaded small van job. It's a bit lower than I would want, to be honest, but on this occasion I thought, because it's quite a quick turnaround, it gets me across the country back towards home, early. I'll take the job and then see how I feel when I get to Grimsby. I suspect there won't be any other work opportunities when I've done this delivery. There's about an hour and 3/4 to get home from Grimsby. So I'm not quite sure how long it's going to take to do this job. Probably a couple of hours, maybe 2.5 hours. So maybe 4:30 I'll be ready to get another job, but I think it's highly unlikely there'll be anything available. So based on this job only and my last job, I will have made $265 gross. So a tad over 200 net for the day, which I'm okay with. Considering I'll be home pretty early, I think that's not a bad result for me. So that's what I'm going to do now, and then I'll when I leave Grimsby, I'll update you with my stats for the day, the week and the month. So while we've still got some light on the issue, here are my stats for today. So I arrived at Grimsby and was finished at about 4:05, and now I'm just going to head home. It's an hour and 3/4 to drive home from here, and it's going to be about 66 miles. So for today, here are my stats based on an average fuel price for this week of 13.64 pence per mile. So today, by the time I get home, I will have driven 382 miles, 382. I will have worked 9.5 hours in total, and I've earned from 2 CX jobs £265, 265. My fuel cost for today comes to £52.10, so I'll round that down to £52, and therefore my net earnings today, after taking into account fuel, comes to £213. That's 213. I shall let you know next my weekly stats. So here are the weekly stats for this week. Having only worked for 3 days, I've driven a total amount of miles of 1,238, 1238. I've worked a total amount of time of 32.75 hours. I've managed to scrape together £735 gross as my turnover. Of that, I spent £168 on fuel, which means I'm left with a net income for the week of £567, 567. Therefore, my average daily net income is £189 for the 3 days that I worked, and my pence earned per mile driven figure this week is 45.83 pence per mile. If you take off my £315 that's sort of set aside to cover all my business costs, that means that my personal income is notionally £252, 252. Right, finally, for October, how did I do? So I worked for 12 days in October. I drove 4,581 miles in total, 4,581. I made a gross amount in my turnover of £2,685, 2,685, and I spent £628 on fuel in October, 628, which means that my net income after fuel and tolls comes to £2,057, 2057. If you take off a month's worth of fixed business costs from that figure, that means that my personal income for October came to £692, 692. Now I did compare that to all the months of this year, and this is what I have found out. So by a long way, September has been my best month and will be my best month possibly ever. But secondly was August, but very close behind that was October. So my last 3 months have been my best earning 3 months of the year. So looking forward, I've got November, and I'm hoping, although it's not guaranteed, that my operation on the 11th of November will go ahead. I had a pre-operation appointment on Wednesday, and what I found out on that appointment was, although the surgeon has agreed the operation date, it has to also be agreed with the anaesthetist, who has the right of veto if they're not happy with the risks involved. So I saw them, one of their registrars, on Wednesday, and I'm hoping they're going to carry on with the operation. If it gets postponed, it is an unknown amount of time before it will be rescheduled in the main hospital, because this is going to happen in an offshoot nearby, but the nearby bit doesn't have A&E, so they can't do risky operations there. And if I have to go to do the main if I have to go do the operation in the main hospital, then that's going to mean a big waiting time, and I'll be very, very disappointed if that happens. So fingers crossed. I'm hoping that a week on Tuesday, it's still going to happen. So next week is probably my last working week, possibly this year. Depends on how my recovery goes. I'm hoping and expecting to get back to work reasonably quickly, but obviously you don't know for sure what's going to happen. So I'm going to have a very quiet November, I suspect. Right, thank you very much for listening to my video. I hope that you are all being successful, however you choose to define that word for yourselves. I'm aiming to be back on Monday, although I do have to be at home at 9 o'clock for a nurse's appointment, which is really annoying because I meant I couldn't book anything this afternoon for Monday morning. So it's going to sort of screw up somewhat the start of my week. But I'll be back at some point on Monday, probably. So farewell, friends.